to the money desk now. Devan, so yesterday we saw former Transnet CEO Brian Molefe and former CFO Anoj Singh in court. Has business reacted to this?
Yes, good afternoon, Maseko. And that's a very significant question for many reasons. I mean, remember, businesses have repeatedly asked to invest more and create jobs. But apart from calling on government to fix structural issues, major structural issues in the economy, it's also called for accountability and punishment for looters. I mean, it's said for years that it won't invest in a country that doesn't take corruption seriously. Well, Bonang Mohale is the president of Business Unity South Africa. I want to quiz him on that and what we saw yesterday and those court appearances of those former Transnet officials. Bonang Mohale, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So we had the former Transnet CEO, CFO in court yesterday on state capture-related charges. NPA's investigating directorate described it as a significant milestone. I'm wondering, how does business feel about it? I mean, surely we've moved significantly. Or do you see it that way?
Absolutely. We are both emboldened and energized because we have agitated and orchestrated for the creation of a commission of inquiry into state capture. In fact, Devan, when you look back, our strategy as business rests on three pillars. Number one is this notion of an inclusive socio-economic growth and transformation. Number two is the protection of key state institutions as contained in Chapter 9. Lastly is how you position business as a national asset. Now, having said that, we have always said, the underlying premise is how, as business, we are going to do everything in our power to root out and defeat state capture. Even though some people would ask, what is state capture? We have defined it. So 10 years later, it is absolutely encouraging. It increases both confidence, hope, and trust, which is at its lowest since the Second World War, that we are definitely moving in the right direction. Remember that these four Transnet executives, amongst many things that they are accused of, the most practical thing is that they were responsible for putting the biggest order of locomotives and wagons, 1,064 in the world. They went to the board and got approval of 38 billion. When the board said, how much? Why so much? They said it includes everything. The time cost of money, foreign exchange, etc. Later on, after the board approved 38 billion, they increased it by a whopping 16 billion rand to 54 billion, and nobody raised an eyebrow. They did such an embarrassingly good job of looting at Transnet that this duo of Brian Molefe and Anoj Singh were then promoted to continue the looting at Eskom. And they continued to do that. When they found four senior executives who were unwilling to sign the optimum coal to the Guptas, those four were summarily dismissed in just 6 months of them joining, with a collective experience of 100 years. Therefore, the cost to the economy, the cost to us as a people with great natural endowment, it's not the fact that we missed an opportunity to do something with 1,064 locomotives, but we chose to inflate it. I'm not even talking about the Prasa locomotives and the Metro Rail locomotives. Countries everywhere else in the world would have added these to benefit from both the...
If you would allow me to come in there, Mr. Mohale, if I can. I mean, you've told us about the numbers. I mean, this tender was amongst the biggest scandals of the state capture project. I'm not sure if that, alone creates any sort of investor confidence in investing in the economy. Because the thing is, you've said previously in the past, and business has said this, that until you see orange overalls, will both foreign and local investors have the confidence, the courage to pull out more money and put up factories. So surely, if this is a blueprint for other state capture cases, then, this thing of actually getting the confidence to put some money in has taken a little bit of a step, or has it, Mr. Mohale?
Devan, in fact, you have hit the nail on the head, my dear brother. But of course, it has rippling effect it has both an outsized and oversized impact. Because you see, when other countries aggregate their purchases, that's why it's not called buying, it's called procurement, which is strategic. Imagine if Transnet, NPRASA, and Metro Rail then put one order, they would have gotten probably a 30% discount. But no. In South Africa, we wanted to inflate the prices so that we can steal exactly the same way that when the South African National Parks Board buys aircraft, they buy it alone. Then the army buys theirs alone. And then when we used to have a national airline, SAA would buy it alone. In fact, the SAA gets worse because SAA would buy their own aircraft, and then South African Express would buy their own, and then Meng would buy their own, and then Airlink would then buy their own. Again, imagine if we aggregated. I mean, Dubai buys one for the country. In fact, the whole 7 countries of the UAE put one order. Here's the one that's absolutely interesting for us, my dear brother. There was no point in saying to business, go on an investment conference, when in 5 years, state capture has cost us 1.5 trillion South African rands. This is 2/3 of what it takes Edward Kieswetter to collect from all of us as SARS revenue. In the 9 wasted years, we were siphoning off, on average, 200 billion South African rand just to the 2 Zupta families. Imagine how many pit latrine toilets would have eliminated. Imagine how many Michael Komapes and Lumka Khanka, the 5-year-olds that would be walking amongst us with shrieks of laughter. And unfortunately, they had to die a sad, tragic, and regrettable death in a pit latrine toilet. 28 years into democracy, Devan.